The negotiations that took place in regards to the Walt Disney Company purchasing Lucasfilm were between George Lucas, whom is the creator of Lucasfilm, and Bob Iger, who is the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. The one major thing that Bob Iger requested is that after all is said and done, Disney has the final say in what is released to the public. George Lucas, on the other hand, had a couple of things that he had requested. He followed Disney's purchase of Marvel and also followed even closer the purchase of Pixar. The purchase of Pixar was more personal to George Lucas. Before Pixar was owned by Steve Jobs, it had belonged to Mr. Lucas. George was very familiar of how Disney left the structure and operation of these two companies intact, and that is exactly what he wanted for Lucasfilm. Bob Iger wanted to be sure that Lucasfilm still had enough intellectual property to sustain itself and grow for years to come. George Lucas wanted to maintain creative control over the films in order to ensure that the Star Wars series wouldn't be desecrated by Disney. He was also looking to spend more time with his daughter, and the only way to do this was to retire. Bob Iger was looking for what he called a small Disney. A company with the same qualities as Pixar, Marvel, and of course, Disney. The three techniques that I recognize in this negotiation are separating the people from the problem, mutual benefits, and appreciation. Definitely, Bob Iger appreciated the work that had already been done by Lucasfilm, and George Lucas felt the same way about how Disney handled the purchase of Marvel and Pixar. There were plenty of mutual benefits to this deal. Mr. Lucas would get to spend the time he wanted with his daughter while still having a say in future films, and Bob Iger would get the small Disney that he was looking for. Bob Iger did an excellent job at separating George Lucas from the problem. He understood what it must feel like to have to basically say goodbye to an idea that you gave birth to. I would have to say that the fact that both sides were able to get what they wanted out of negotiations, a lot went well. I would also have to say that this was partially due to the fact that both sides done their research and were familiar with the other side and what they had to offer. Bob Iger understood exactly how much the films and their integrity meant to George Lucas. I don't know if I would say that something actually went wrong, but during the process of negotiations, George Lucas had second thoughts a few times. This is to be expected when you're selling what is essentially your baby and what you've done all your life. I believe that he was entitled to a second, a third, and a fourth thought. Bob Iger agreed that the best people to make the next Star Wars trilogy would be George Lucas's longtime Lucasfilm executives. This allowed Lucas to retain some influence over future films. In return, George Lucas agreed that Disney, not Lucasfilm, would have final say over any future movies. An agreement was absolutely reached, and it will for sure foster a very long-term, meaningful relationship. There are 3 Star Wars movies that are slated for release and an abundance of other materials that still have yet to be touched. With George Lucas still having a say in how the movies go creatively, and Disney adding its magic in other aspects of the business such as merchandising, the business deal stands to make a lot of money for years to come.